exposing the hypocrisy, Amazon, workers' compensation, and the failure of labor and political leadership introduction in a nation that prides itself on hard work. Too many laborers find themselves discarded the moment they are injured on the job. Nowhere is this reality more stark than at Amazon, whose punishing quotas and relentless production metrics have fueled some of the highest workplace injury rates in modern American history. Although public outcry has grown over Amazon's exploitative labor practices, major unions like the Teamsters, progressive political leaders such as Senator Bernie Sanders, and prominent socialists like Seattle City Councilmember Chama Sawant remain shamefully silent on one critical front: the dire need for federal standards and a national workers' compensation commission that can truly protect injured workers. For nearly a decade, these figures have orchestrated marches, broadcast fiery speeches, and banked fundraising dollars off Amazon's labor issues. Yet they have failed to demand the one reform capable of leveling the playing field and safeguarding workers' livelihoods: a uniform federal baseline of compensation protections and human rights. Instead, they fixate on union drives, half measures like Medicare for all, and state-level single-payer initiatives such as Whole Washington, all while ignoring the fundamental crisis confronting injured workers in America. Their silence on a national workers' compensation commission is deafening, and their hypocrisy is undeniable. Amazon, self-insurance, on-site doctors, and a workplace injury crisis. Amazon's warehouses, distribution centers, and fulfillment hubs stand as stark monuments to the profit-over-people ethos of corporate America. Repetitive strain injuries, back problems, and even life-altering trauma have become an accepted cost of doing business. According to OSHA and investigative journalists, Amazon's injury rates frequently surpass industry averages, outpacing even notoriously dangerous professions. Making matters worse, Amazon, like many large corporations in Washington state and beyond, is self-insured. Rather than relying on traditional workers' compensation insurance carriers, Amazon effectively acts as its own insurer. In Washington, for example, Amazon sets the terms for how claims are handled, deciding what care is approved and what is denied. Inside the warehouses, AmCare stations are staffed by company-paid medical personnel, effectively company doctors under Amazon's control. This setup leaves injured workers at the mercy of their employers' cost-cutting priorities and self-interest. It's a return to the era of company stores owned by robber barons, where the boss not only employed you, but controlled your housing, your groceries, and now, disturbingly, your medical care. Nor is Amazon alone. Aviation giant Boeing uses Sedgwick, another third-party self-insurer, to manage claims in its favor. Across industries, self-insurance and outsourced claims management ensure that corporate employers run the entire show, policing themselves, dictating medical decisions, and effectively acting as judge, jury, and executioner for injured workers' fates. A patchwork of state laws and ALEC's race to the bottom. Even beyond these corporate-controlled arrangements, injured workers across the nation face a fractured patchwork of state laws. When a worker in Alabama is hurt lifting heavy packages at an Amazon fulfillment center, that individual's fate hinges on that state's workers' compensation laws, often gutted by corporate lobbying and ideologically driven groups like the American Legislative Exchange Council. ALEC's behind-the-scenes reforms encourage states to weaken workers' comp standards, cut benefits, and favor corporate interests. The result? A race to the bottom, with states competing to offer lower costs and fewer protections. Injured workers are left to navigate a maze of bureaucratic hurdles, denied claims, and delayed medical treatments. If they speak up, they face the real possibility of retaliation. The great silence of labor leaders and politicians. Sanders, the Teamsters, and Republicans. We've seen Senator Bernie Sanders pound the podium, railing against Jeff Bezos and Amazon's anti-worker policies. We've watched the Teamsters celebrate union drives and contract negotiations. Republicans, meanwhile, posture as defenders of the working class while weaponizing worker grievances for partisan gain. Yet none of these voices, left, right, or center, demands the establishment of a national workers' compensation commission or a uniform federal standard that guarantees justice and fair treatment for injured workers. The Teamsters, despite recent high-profile union wins, remain mute about insisting on a federal commission that ensures prompt medical treatment, impartial claim adjudication, and guaranteed wage replacement for injured laborers. Bernie Sanders and other progressive leaders, despite years of condemning Amazon's abuses, have not championed this crucial reform. Republicans who claim to stand for the working class refuse to push beyond surface-level rhetoric, preferring empty sound bites to actionable policy that would improve workers' lives. The hypocrisy of the progressive and socialist left. Senator Sanders and Kshama Sawant Senator Bernie Sanders made his career championing the working class against corporate excess. Yet while he advocates for Medicare for all, an essential step toward universal health care, he fails to acknowledge that health care coverage alone does not protect an injured worker's rights within a broken, state-based workers' comp framework. It doesn't provide fair wage replacement, unbiased claims handling, or enforceable national standards. In short, M4A cannot on its own fix the structural vulnerabilities that leave injured workers at the mercy of their employers. Seattle's Kshama Sawant, known for her bold stands against Amazon's influence, similarly falls short. She calls for taxing Amazon, rent control, and a Washington state single-payer system, yet never puts forth a plan demanding federal protections for injured workers. In 8 years of holding office, Sawant has not championed a national workers' compensation commission or uniform federal baseline standards. While rallying crowds with anti-Amazon rhetoric, she remains silent on the fundamental issue of injured workers left to fight against self-insured corporate behemoths and ALEC-designed legal frameworks that all but guarantee a stacked deck. M4A, whole WA, and state single-payer. Necessary but not sufficient Medicare for all, whole Washington, and other state-based single-payer proposals are noble efforts to ensure healthcare access. Yet even if an injured Amazon worker in Washington state receives comprehensive medical coverage, that worker still grapples with a Byzantine compensation system designed to protect corporate profits over human dignity. Healthcare coverage does not address wage replacement standards, the fairness of claim adjudications, or the enforcement of workers' rights. Without federal protections, employers remain free to manipulate the system, even if medical bills are paid. Workers need more than just health care. They need a robust, enforceable federal system that guarantees all injured laborers a fair shake. Without it, the structural power imbalance remains. The company doctor model thrives, and employers like Amazon and Boeing remain free to rig the process in their favor. The need for a federal standard and national commission, what we need is a national workers' compensation commission, empowered to set baseline protections across all 50 states. Federal standards would ensure that an injured Amazon worker in Alabama has the same foundational rights as one in California or New York. This would curtail ALEC's influence, standardize claims procedures, and strip away corporate advantages gained through self-insurance and third-party middlemen like Sedgwick. Yet, where's the call for such a system? After nearly a decade of leveraging Amazon's abuses for political gain, we still hear no unified demand from Sanders, the Teamsters, Sawant, or Republicans to establish comprehensive federal labor standards. Instead, they point to union elections, incremental wage hikes, or healthcare reform as if these alone can neutralize the catastrophic power imbalance at play. Conclusion. The time for real action is now. We stand at a historical crossroads. Corporations like Amazon have shown they will not voluntarily protect their workers. State-based systems, sabotaged by ALEC and corporate lobbying, fail to deliver justice. Medicare for all and single-payer coverage, while crucial healthcare reforms, do not solve the deeper legal and economic vulnerabilities of an injured workforce caught in a trap of self-insured employers and company-run medical services. Those who claim to fight for working people, Bernie Sanders, the Teamsters, Kshama Sawant, Republicans who profess populist values, must face this truth. The American labor landscape demands national, uniform standards, an enforceable federal workers' compensation commission, and guaranteed human rights protections that cannot be evaded by corporate lawyers or ALEC stooges. Until these leaders stop exploiting Amazon's struggles for political theater and start demanding genuine federal reforms, injured workers will remain pawns in a rigged game, one that looks suspiciously like the company store model of the robber baron era. The silence is deafening, the hypocrisy undeniable, and the need for action urgent. It's time for a real federal framework that ensures that injured workers in America are no longer forced to suffer in silence.